Well, good morning. It is a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. He's Griffin. And yeah, full coverage. Jey Uso won the Royal Rumble, baby.
It was BS.
Hell yeah. A long time. This is a weird weekend where, like, good decisions were made.
No, if it was a
Jey
good
Uso
decision, John Cena would have won.
Yeah, I'm so sure. Jey Uso won the Royal Rumble. I can't believe they got that right. That is a miracle. Beyonce won Best Album. I mean, I cannot believe they didn't just give it to another mid-AF Taylor Swift record. Like, I can't believe they actually gave it to a good album. It's incredible. What a weekend. What a weekend.
The Grammys have always been an upstanding
The Grammys have been
award.
What's the most mediocre Taylor Swift album that there is? There is a Taylor Swift album that deserved to win album of the year, or at least was in the conversation. 1989 was worthy of at least consideration. I don't know if I would have to go back and look to see what the other options were that year. But that's the only Taylor Swift album that's ever been album of the year worthy. All of the rest of them have been mid. Like, mid. I mean, the first one that she won with is The Joke. The last couple, just mid folk records. But that was what this one was, and so I just kind of assumed it was going to win. So it was a miracle that they got it right. Miracle that somehow they didn't screw this up. So thumbs up. The rest of it, meh, whatever. I mean, they got the Kendrick Lamar thing was probably the correct answer as well. Of all the nominees for those two, I think there were better songs, records in the last year, but of all of the nominees, definitely the best, no question. And that way, you know, it was good all around. Good all around, man. I got nothing to complain about. Maryland didn't play, so they couldn't lose. Towson got a miracle.
Oh my god,
a miracle. Like, if you weren't watching on Saturday night, there are miracles, and then there's what happened with Towson, who lost the game.
They earned it.
Yeah. Lost the game, only to look up and be like, maybe not.
Jeez.
As a would-be winner for Drexel.
Well, something to be said, because Drexel...
From 16 inches away from the basket.
Well, Drexel was shooting into an ocean for the first 10 minutes, so...
Yeah, that's true, they were. Then Towson did that thing they like to do where
they don't score
for like 4 minutes, they're good, and then for the next 5, they're just like, meh. These minutes don't count, do they?
They didn't score the final 3 minutes?
Yeah, it's a really weird bit. It's a really weird bit.
But they also defend for those 3 minutes.
Yeah, well, they didn't on the last possession. They just got
Well, they did, actually, because...
They got miraculously lucky.
There was like 4.1 seconds on the clock.
When it was live, I said, oh, that's good. They lost.
Yeah, I was like, no.
Yeah, and then, like...
Were you there?
No, I didn't go.
Oh, okay.
I didn't go. Yeah, when they put it up, I was like, okay, I guess. So Towson hangs on and beats Drexel for their 8th straight win. But, buddy.
They're invincible. I don't think they can lose now.
Yeah, is that what you think? Maybe back off and all that. Loyola also got a miraculous win on Saturday. It was a day for miraculous wins. Loyola, they held on. Maryland women lost yesterday. That was a bummer. They lost at home to Illinois, which a team they had literally never lost to before. And they got Shai Sellers back, and they still lost. Not great. But you know what? We don't need to focus on the negatives. I'm sure we can just continue to discuss the positives. Jey Uso and Beyonce and Kendrick Lamar and miracles on the Hudson. That's what we've got for ourselves. That was what the weekend was. Coming up on the program today, and a little bit later on this hour, speaking of college basketball, Andy Katz is going to join us. He's been campaigning for weeks for Maryland to move into the top 25, and I think he's going to get his way today when the new polls come out. We'll talk to him about Terps, the Big Ten in general. Also later on in the program, Jim Miller, SiriusXM NFL Radio, former NFL quarterback. He was down in Mobile all week last week. He did the radio broadcast of the Senior Bowl. We'll talk to him about some of the prospects that most stood out during the course of the week. And Jeremy Conn will join us, and I'm sure he is fired up. As everybody knows, Jeremy Conn, a huge Dallas Mavericks fan, and they landed Anthony Davis.
Really? They got Anthony Davis?
They got Anthony Davis.
So you got Kyrie.
Weekend. Yeah,
you
right.
You got Clay.
Clay Thompson.
Anthony
yeah.
Davis,
Anthony Davis.
and leading the charge.
Yeah, right. And Luka Doncic. Well, they got those guys. They got a boy, that team.
I was just in the finals a year ago.
Front runners, I'd say, to win the 2018 NBA title. We'll talk to Jeremy Conn. I can't even imagine. Now that said, look,
I told him it's not too late to jump on a team with an actual vision.
Right. You
like
want him to be a Washington Wizards fan. They won a game, I heard.
They did, and then it got overshadowed by something else.
Yeah, I heard they won a basketball game. So that's a miracle. Why? Why win a basketball?
I don't know. They won it by 2 points.
Hey man, it counts. Ask Towson. They won by 1. Yeah. Counts.
Won by.
Oh, yeah. So we'll do all that coming up on the program today. Today's show is brought to you by the CIAA tournament.
It is. Baltimore welcomes the Food Lions CIAA men's and women's basketball tournament to the CFG Bank Arena once again from February 25th through March 1st, later this month now. So you got to get your tickets. They are available at Ticketmaster.com. Again, head over to Ticketmaster.com to get your tickets to the Food Lions CIAA men's and women's basketball tournament at CFG Bank Arena from February 25th through March 1st.
Don't worry, I'll print it.
I was about to get on.
I got it. Don't worry. I'll just host the show and print. All right. Don't worry about it. It's okay.
You are pretty talented.
It's okay. I can.
Good thing.
You want me to walk and chew gum too while we're doing it?
No, I won't ask you to do that much.
A couple of things, just for what it's. I am writing today about the continued fallout related to Justin Tucker and more reporting from the Baltimore Banner over the weekend as 3 more massage therapists made allegations of inappropriate behavior. And it's difficult. I said this on Friday. Reed and I talked about it yesterday. I don't know. Part of this for us is we want answers. And that's kind of what I'm going to write about at PressBoxOnline.com today. We want answers. We want to know, okay, is the NFL going to suspend Justin Tucker? Are the Ravens going to release Justin Tucker? We want immediate answers. And we're probably not going to get them. Probably not. That'll be up to the Ravens. The Ravens are the only way we'll get a more immediate answer. If the Ravens just decide, and the only information that I got, I sent some messages around this weekend, and I don't have anything that I would go with. If the Ravens decide that they do indeed have a zero-tolerance policy, which I have no idea if they have a zero-tolerance policy or not. I don't know. And I don't know what their zero-tolerance policy is for. I don't – that's a really complicated subject. And it's the type of thing that we're going to say things like the Ravens are going to have to answer questions about this. And to be clear – at some point, those questions will be asked. But as far as them having to answer them, that's where you're wrong. The Ravens have figured that out, and I'm not saying it's okay, but the Ravens have identified that they're the big fish. They don't answer to anyone else. They might have to answer to a shareholder of some sort. For example, if the Ravens decide they're going to try to continue to employ Justin Tucker, they might have someone that spends a lot of money with them that has questions behind closed doors, and they might have to answer to them. But this world where we still want to believe that they have to answer to the public at large or the media, they don't. They figured that out some time ago. They don't have to do that. They're the big fish in the small pond. They're the multi-billion-dollar corporation within a smaller city. They've recognized that we need them. They don't need us. So, yeah, at some point, John Harbaugh, Eric DaCosta, probably not Steve Bisciotti, but who knows? Maybe even Steve Bisciotti will answer questions from someone, a press conference, an interview, whatever it would be. And whenever that is, questions will be asked not just about Justin Tucker specifically, but more broadly about this alleged zero-tolerance policy. And I don't know that they'll have an answer. If they do, I don't know that they'll choose to give it. Because they can retrofit it however they want it to fit. And there can be opinions about how zero-tolerance a zero-tolerance policy should be. We brought it up last week. The Kansas City Chiefs will play in the Super Bowl with two players who have both served multi-game suspensions from the NFL for domestic violence incidents. And your opinion might be there shouldn't be a zero-tolerance policy. My opinion is that I would always prefer to not have on my team players that I would have significant conflict about rooting for. That's my opinion. I would prefer to not have those guys on my team as a fan. But even within that context, I understand it's not black and white, right? Like, it was easy for me to say that about Antonio Brown. There was a text message that proved that he had committed sexual assault. Nope. Never. The preponderance of the evidence that's been presented about Justin Tucker is really bad. And we do have to, I keep having to say this. There is no excuse. We had a caller to the station yesterday who was like, well, this might be related to sex addiction. Explanations are not excuses. Is there some world in which if today Justin Tucker said, you know what, I don't want to deal with this. Yes, when I was a younger man, I had problems. And I had to work through those problems, and I'm going to tell you about the rehabilitation that I already went through and what I'm continuing to do and what I'll continue to do moving forward, and showed contrition. And by the way, that will never happen. We're just not in a society where that will happen. But if that were to be the case, could there be, I'll serve a suspension. I should have done that before. Then there might be a world where we are a nation that believes in second chances. We do. We constantly want humans to prove that they can overcome things, even when they're their own doing. But there are real victims, and if you are dismissive of that, it's the victims that matter in these alleged incidents. I don't know. I don't know if there would be a path where Justin Tucker could ever kick in the NFL or with the Ravens. I don't know. Instead, Justin Tucker is going to try to continue to suggest that he's innocent. And if he is, obviously he should. I get it. It doesn't look or seem likely that that's the case. But if he is, then of course he should fight like that. What's more likely, now that a group of these therapists all have an attorney, what seems more likely is that Justin Tucker's team will attempt to swiftly try to come to some sort of agreement, even if the allegations go beyond any statute of limitations. They would look to come to some sort of agreement that would include these victims signing NDAs. And the reason they would look to do that would be because then they couldn't speak to the NFL. And then the NFL might say, well, there's nothing we can do. We attempted to investigate this, and no one was willing to corroborate their stories. And if that's the case, then the NFL can't punish Justin Tucker. And if the NFL doesn't punish Justin Tucker, then the Ravens are left in this really precarious situation of, well, do we? again, without participation from any of the parties involved. That seems like the most likely way for this to play out. And the Ravens would then be forced to make a decision about, is it worth it? Now, I don't know. I don't have an opinion about what the right thing to do is here because we're past that. And it's easy to say if these allegations are true, then I'm not comfortable with Justin Tucker being someone that I want to root for. But I've also been rooting for him for years after these alleged incidents happened. It's complicated. It's complicated. It's easy for me to say that. It's easy for me to say a lot of things. If Zay Flowers really did something to a woman last offseason, then I wouldn't be comfortable with that. But I don't know. Now, there's more gray area there, obviously, because it's one incident and the police attempted to investigate it and said we've got nothing, and there's more gray area there. You're talking about there being 9 different therapists who have all come forward with various versions of similar stories. It's really difficult to think that this is all made up, pulled out of thin air. I don't know how this goes in the coming weeks. I don't know. I don't know how it should go. I know how my feelings. It's easy for me to say, well, I think that if Justin Tucker did these things, then he probably shouldn't be the Ravens kicker anymore. But I don't know if you said broadly, how should an NFL team approach these things? Again, take your own rooting interest out of it. What should the policy be for an NFL team looking to compete and watching other teams compete while employing players that, in your world, you wouldn't employ? If it was nameless, faceless, I would understand the argument of, well, market inefficiency would say, if you're not willing to sign those players, then your competition is able to get players at better prices to help them. That's not me saying that's the way it should be, but it's part of the story. So what do the Ravens do? Presumably we'll find out. I don't know when. And it's going to hang over. I mean, it really is the difficult part about all of this, is that, it's this giant, even as we have draft conversations, there's a part of me that's like, well, are we going to talk about the kickers? As we talk about anything related to the Ravens in the offseason, it now hangs and looms over them. What is going on here? What's happening here? And we did feel some of that a year ago when the story first broke related to Zay Flowers. There was a little bit of a, does this completely change the tenor of the offseason? It seems more likely this time around. As a lot of people have pointed out, the Ravens would have to make him a post-June 1st. I say they have to. They could choose to soak up all the, if it's going to be a draft pick kicking for them next year, then it's probably not, or a drafted or undrafted.
A rookie, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's probably not going to be somebody who they could just say, let's just have all the dead money hit right now and get through it. It seems more likely that they'd want to spread it out, so it seems more likely that if they're going to move on from Justin Tucker, it would be a post-June 1st designation. So they couldn't actually do that until March. I don't know what else to say other than we'll see. It's frustrating because you just want those answers. You just want to know. It's the nature of being a fan. You just want, what's going to happen to my team? Should I pay more attention to who the other kickers are that are of it? Like, you want those answers, and you can't get them today. And you do have to remember that's not as important as making sure that they have this right, doing. But I say these words where I say, do I trust that there's going to be a full investigation? No, it's part of the story here. There's a playbook for all of this. The NFL says we'll investigate. The parties involved are like, well, how do we keep that from happening? How do we make sure there's not really an investigation? And I don't know. I don't know what this looks like. Justin Tucker hired some pretty high-powered defamation attorneys, but the Baltimore Banner didn't back off their reporting. They, in fact, the next day reported more. So they are clearly not fearing a defamation suit. Their reporting is thorough and vetted and rock solid because they're doing it in the face of defamation attorneys who are just counting on you because it's 2025 and the media at large has become this easy target. They're just counting on if we try to create a new antagonist here, maybe we can win more public opinion just by saying it's the media who are the bad guys. And inevitably someone somewhere will get on board with that. I mean, sadly it works regularly. Look at our country. Someone will say, yeah, they're always just saying salacious things and trying to bring people down and whatever it is. That somebody somewhere will say that. I think those people are fewer and further between than they are like in American politics, for example. I think the overwhelmingly thorough nature of this reporting is, and maybe that's part of it. Maybe a lot of people have asked about the timing of the story. It might very well be that like a couple weeks ago, the Banner had one or two therapists who were willing to speak, and they said that's not enough. If we report that, the public opinion might be this is salacious, this is one person. We're not going to do that. Even if it's true. We're going to keep working this until we are so certain that we have a pattern and there are a group that it's impossible to poke a hole in the reporting. I don't know all the details. I did, talk to Chris Corman of the Baltimore Banner and they've done a great job of putting out content that goes behind the scenes about their reporting and how everything unfolded. And as I've said a million times, and not to take anything away from Brenna Smith or Julie Sharper, who are both excellent reporters, but Justin Fenton is, as far as in this city, if there is a trusted reporter that exists, no one more so than Justin Fenton. So it is as rock solid as it gets to me. And we'll just have to see. The next few weeks will be interesting. The Ravens don't have to. It feels like there would be significant pressure, but the truth is the football world is going to have their eyes on New Orleans this week. So this week, there's not really going to be a lot of attention paid to Baltimore, to Justin Tucker. It's a big story locally, but as I already said, the Ravens have figured that out. They don't really care. I mean, that's the truth. They kind of don't give a rat's ass about local. They've figured it out. We're the big dogs here. We're the NFL. You need us. So as much attention as the story has locally, I don't think that that's going to make them say, we need to stop everything and put together an emergency press conference and the way that once upon a time they would have about a story like this, obviously in the aftermath of the Ray Rice. But that's
right. So in case, of course, something else comes out. In the
yeah,
next
right.
couple
Yeah,
days.
I mean, sure. But if this is what it is, I think they're going to try to lay low for as long as they can lay low. And how long that is, I don't know. But I think that's what the game plan is going to be, is and part of it, obviously, too, is they've got to figure out if they have their ducks in a row about who knew what, when they knew it, and is that potentially, to your point, is the next report going to be about someone internally who knew about these allegations and work to shield them, cover them up, whatever it is. They've got to figure out. They might already know that, but if they don't, that's the next step of this. Is internally, they've got to figure out who might have known, what did they know, can that person continue on with those people, whatever it is, continue on with the organization. We come back in. We're going to do pleasant things. Maryland basketball. Looks like they're moving to the top 25 this week. Andy Katz, Big Ten Network, amongst other places, will join us next. It is a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their amazingly scrumptious, fat, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. Every season is crab season at Costas, so make your plans now by calling 410-477-1975 and reserve your taste of heaven. Sit back, crack some crabs, and watch the Ravens chase down another title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday nights, Costas offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30, and there are nightly specials Monday through Friday. So head on down to the Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at costasinn.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now, and it's our very special Best of 2024 issue. On the cover, we celebrate our Mo Gabba Sports Person of the Year, Lamar Jackson, as Bo Smolka profiles what the quarterback means to the community beyond the football field. Also inside, we celebrate the top people, performances, and moments of the year in local sports. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always read the entire issue and find the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Need a trophy or award that's as unique as the achievement? Look no further than Crown Trophy. With locations in Owings Mills and Gaithersburg, they specialize in custom trophies, plaques, and medals for any occasion. From sports and academic awards to employee recognition and corporate gifts, visit crowntrophy.com today and let them help you create a lasting memory for your school, team, or business. Crown Trophy is a proud supporter of the Maryland Public Secondary Schools Athletic Association. crowntrophy.com.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCR as continue along on a Monday edition of the program. Today's show also brought to you by County Sports Zone. Moving towards playoff season in high school hoops, you can find out everything: scores, schedules, rankings, the brackets when they're out, all of the latest updates by going to countysports.zone, proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com, countysports.zone. Speaking of high school sports, obviously former Gilman and St. Francis coach Biff Poggi, you might have seen over the weekend, is officially headed back to Michigan as on staff for Sharon Moore there. And I had heard some rumblings in the last couple of weeks that there was a chance that Biff could be coming back to the area at the high school rank. Couple different rumors about that. Rumors and, I don't know, reports, whatever you want to call it. But obviously none of those panned out. And Biff Poggi will go back to Michigan and will now be a thorn in the side of Maryland recruiting, as he will, as always, continue to recruit this area quite well. And I can think of someone in particular that he'll probably be going after very, very quickly at Michigan.
No, he said he's committed.
I understand that.
100%.
Got to get on the bus.
His words.
Just imagine that probably Biff Poggi will make a phone call over to Masai and St. Francis and see about Zion Ely. But, yeah, Biff Poggi headed back to the University of Michigan. University of Maryland basketball, obviously. It's been a very good stretch. It's funny because we keep talking about their 3 straight wins, Illinois, Indiana, and Wisconsin. But the truth is that win over Nebraska ball looks a little bit better after they got back-to-back really good wins, including Oregon yesterday. Joining us now here on GCR, college basketball analyst for Turner, NCAA, and, of course, you see him on Big Ten Network. He was in studio the last time Maryland was playing. He is Mr. Andy Katz, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Andy, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's always great to catch up with you. Thank you so much for taking the time for us this morning.
No problem. We're talking before the poll comes out,
yeah.
And they better be ranked this time.
I know.
It's kind of ridiculous. I've been on that campaign for quite a while, and I don't understand why they haven't been. So we'll see if it happens today at 1:00.
I know that's been a thing, and I noticed in your most recent power rankings you have them 12th. So boy, it would seem like there would be quite some disparity if to you the team that's the 12th best team in the country isn't considered one of the 25 best teams in the country. That math doesn't seem to math.
Yeah, and look, everyone can do their rankings however they see fit. It is obviously subjective. It's not the same as, our sort of NCAA tournament projections. To me, I've always viewed the rankings as, how well you're playing, did you have good wins,
right,
and so on in the most recent past. Because, for example, last week, Vanderbilt got ranked, which was totally justified. They'd beaten Kentucky and Tennessee, at home in back-to-back weeks. Now they lost pretty handily to Oklahoma this past week, and so I moved them out of my top 25, which is totally justified because this past week they had one game, they got blown out against Oklahoma. They don't deserve it. Maryland, on the other hand, has consistently, outside of the one, I guess you could argue, overtime loss to Northwestern over the last couple of weeks, has deserved to be ranked. And I just don't understand, what, especially like 2 Sundays ago, I think it was, when they won at
Indiana.
Yeah. Like how that wasn't seen. Now that actually it was last Sunday, right? It was a week ago yesterday.
Yeah, 8 days.
Yeah. So it was opposite. I know, it was opposite some of the NFL stuff, but clearly if you are a poll voter, you should be paying attention regardless if there's NFL going on or not. It just made no sense that they win that game on the road and then get no recognition for it in the national rankings. And then I saw them on Wednesday in person against Wisconsin and was there in College Park. And that reaffirmed again, they should be ranked. Now they had their weekend off. And I just will be shocked if they're not in there today at 1:00.
I think I would like to hope that won't be a conversation we have, but my God, could you imagine? Andy, I say all this, obviously you have them 12th in your power rankings. They're 15th in the net rankings. They put together this really good stretch of late. Is this Maryland team, given how balanced their 5 starters are, how they can get offense from any of them at any point, they are a good defensive team. Is this a Maryland team that's a real threat to make a deep run, like a Final Four type of run in March?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you have to put things in context. Are they as good as the championship team with Juan Dixon?
No,
of course not.
Right.
And I don't even think you could argue maybe they're as good, obviously, as that team that I thought was going to be really good in 2020, led by Anthony Cowan, if I'm not mistaken. When they had a share of the Big Ten title.
Yeah, Jalen Smith.
And then COVID canceled that one. But in this season, their starting five, when they're on, I would put them up against, I'd say pretty much any team outside of the top five. When they're playing well, the three guards, the transfer guards, when they're making shots, and obviously Queen and Reese together, there's no reason that team, when they're playing well and defending, can't be a Sweet 16 team. And then when you get into that weekend, you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
But, they are legitimately, they have the personnel to make a deep run. Are they as good, obviously as Auburn or Duke or Alabama, in my opinion? No. But look at last year, okay? I always believe there's one team, and they're better than that. My point is they're better than that NC State team that got to the Final Four last year.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure.
So could they be that team? Sure. I always feel like there's one team that sort of has a different path that gets there because there's other upsets and they don't have to play, some of the favorites. And more times than not, there is one of those teams. Remember, obviously whether it's Loyola Chicago, NC State, Miami,
Florida Atlantic.
from a couple of years, Florida Atlantic. And they earn it, but, there always seems to be one of the four is in that category. Again, I do think Maryland is better than those teams when they're playing well.
Andy Katz is with us here on GCR. Andy, somebody would say, so what explains the road troubles that they had in the Big Ten? And I wonder if the answer is as simple as I kind of alluded to about Nebraska, that really is the nature of the Big Ten. Like, this is, even winning these last two games on the road doesn't guarantee that you're going to win all these games. It's just the nature of how brutally difficult it is to win in this league this season.
Correct. And I would also say that sometimes you have to catch breaks. And when they played Illinois,
right,
that was without Ivisic, who ended up playing on Sunday against Ohio State. So they caught a break there. They played well enough to beat Indiana. I think they were contributed a little to Indiana's poor late game execution.
Yep.
And that helped them. And look, I guess, they opened the reset of the Big Ten up in the Northwest. And, they did not play well against Washington. That's no secret. And that was the shocker of the trip. It was asking a lot at the time to beat Oregon as well, but they actually played, they had a chance in that game.
They did. So,
that was not crazy that they could have gotten a split, sort of a different way to get the split, because everyone sort of assumed they would beat Washington. So they lose. If you had said at the beginning of the season, which road trip would you rather get a sweep of, Illinois, Indiana, or Washington, Oregon, you would have said Illinois, Indiana. And that's what they did.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
So, but, obviously we all react to things in the moment and at the time, when they lost those two games in Northwest, it's the same problems, blah, blah, blah. And then, then they lose on the road in overtime to Northwestern. And then they turn around and do what they did in Illinois and Indiana and have played so well at home.
Right now, Andy, there's separation standings-wise, right, between Michigan State, Purdue, Michigan, and then that next group of teams, Maryland, Wisconsin, UCLA. But tangibly, is there actually as much separation between those teams as the 2 to 3 games that it shows in the standings?
No, and part of that is because of scheduling. I mean, Michigan State, they're going to be at UCLA tomorrow night, so they're on their LA trip now. And they lost, obviously, to USC. Their schedule is completely backloaded. They've got their 2 Michigan games. They got a Purdue game, and they got another game against Illinois. So I fully expect them to lose 3 or 4 games total. Yeah. Maryland is this is why I thought that Maryland over Wisconsin prior to tip-off Wednesday was going to get one of the double byes because of their schedule. They're done with all the West Coast schools, and they also already played at Purdue, so that's done. Which, by the way, they played well in that one, just didn't close it out. and they've already beaten Wisconsin. So they already won at Illinois, and at Indiana. Like their schedule for them, I think, is more advantageous for them to if they continue to play well, to get that either third or fourth spot in the double bye.
Does their depth concern you as much as it concerns some? Like I know the argument is always, hey, you're going to play a smaller bench in the NCAA tournament anyway, but I think the bigger fear is like what happens if you have to deal with, as you just pointed out, Illinois has been depleted a little bit. What happens if you have to deal with an injury? Does the depth concern you at all for Maryland? Injury-wise, yes. If it's foul problems, in a particular game versus someone out for a significant amount, no. I mean, look what just happened the other day, where Tennessee, loses 2 starters. Yeah.
They're down to 7 players, and they beat Florida at home, and Florida scores only 44 points.
Yep.
So,
yeah, go figure.
I guess sometimes we all make, a little too much of the depth factor, because obviously when you get into the NCAA tournament or the Big Ten tournament, you shorten your bench anyway. I would say it's a bigger issue. The depth thing, I think, is a bigger issue in the Big Ten tournament if you're going to continue to advance than the NCAA tournament, because the Big Ten tournament, is day after day after day.
Right.
Whereas you get that break in the NCAA tournament as you advance, you get that day off in between, and the timeouts are much longer in the NCAA tournament. So your rest periods are longer. So, the half times, everything, it's more conducive to shortening your bench and maximizing the wear and tear on your players at that time of the year.
Yeah, you almost argue they're insufferably long in the NCAA tournament. But,
yes.
Hey, what are we going to complain about, right? Like, it's the NCAA tournament.
By the way, I was going to say something about the arena. A couple fans were asking me in person, why I didn't have it like the top 5 and all that. And I said, the one issue I have is when it is full, which it was last Wednesday, when the students are there, yes, it's one of the top 5 to 10 arenas in the country.
No, but
the problem is,
we saw the Nebraska game. We saw the Minnesota game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's the problem. It's the lack of, that they're always coming out regardless of opponent or time of the year. That's the problem. I have no question saying it's one of the best when everyone's in there. No question.
Yeah, look, Andy, I think you're right, and I would say that my defense of this would be it's been a tough stretch for Maryland fans, right? Like we're post Gary Williams, it's been hard to fully embrace, and obviously the move to the Big Ten, it has been tough, and I do think that that's something that the university, the program, is trying to still overcome, but it probably takes consistency, like this type of season, 2 or 3 seasons in a row, to get back to what it was once upon a time. Because I do acknowledge you're right. We all see that. You're right. It does. What time the game starts matters. Who they're playing matters. And for Wisconsin, it was awesome. But for these other Big Ten games, boy, it felt like a morgue. It just felt like there was nothing going on. But I do think that that's part of the story of sort of the last 15 years of Maryland basketball.
The one thing, it's funny you brought that up, because in all this alignment and expansion, and obviously, I've been doing this a while. So for me, Maryland in the Big Ten is one of those ones where it just feels weird because they're not in the ACC. Because I just remember and went to so many of those great games against, Duke, Carolina, NC State, Virginia. Those were sort of the core rivals. But 2 things. One, the generation that's in college now, this is all they know.
Right.
They all they know is the Big Ten. They don't, even if they were alive, they don't really remember the ACC. And then secondly, as we see how bad the ACC is right now, it clearly was, obviously financially it was the right move. And, even in terms of the quality of opponent, just comparison to whether it's Pitt, Wake Forest.
Right.
I don't think Maryland's a bubble team, but if they were, okay, it's not even close, the type of quad one opportunities that you're getting in the Big Ten right now versus the ACC. Those bubble teams in the ACC, they basically better beat Duke, maybe Clemson, or they're in trouble because they're just not going to get the opportunities that they would in the Big Ten. And that's the thing, like with Indiana, they've got this crazy gauntlet down the stretch, but you know what?
Those
There are
are their
opportunities.
chances. Yep.
What if,
Yep, they can get in.
what if they win?
Yep.
What if they win 4 of them?
Right.
Now they got 4 more quad one wins.
Yeah, everybody's firing the coach today, but you're right. I mean, like things could change in a hurry. Andy, I know you were down at Duke, Carolina this weekend, and there are a lot of other big stories from the weekend. Obviously, Coach Cal. What to you was the biggest storyline from this weekend, which was probably the biggest college basketball weekend of the season?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to cherry pick because there were so many. I mean, Duke's dominance, I was there for that, and I've been been privileged to go to a lot of those rivalry games. That was about as dominant a first half as I've ever seen between the two. And Cooper Flagg has lived up to the hype. I mean, he was assisting or contributing in some form to like literally every bucket in their first 18 points, I think it was. And so that was just fantastic from Duke. I mean, they clearly look like they can win the championship and compete, and maybe go undefeated in the ACC. We'll see what happens. In terms of the comeback from Texas Tech, over Houston, that was something else.
Iowa State getting pantsed.
I mentioned the Florida 44 points.
Yeah.
Iowa State losing badly to K-State at home, that just made no sense. Late night, St. Mary's is now undefeated. Beats Gonzaga. They're in trouble.
Yep.
You mentioned, obviously, Coach Cal coming back to Arkansas just when everyone had left Arkansas for dead. Here comes, Arkansas getting the win at Kentucky. So, yeah, there was a lot going on for sure.
By the way,
and then Auburn keeps winning.
If I can wrap with this, Andy, because I think there are a lot of like casual, you know the types, the people that kind of come around to college basketball, like when the NFL is dwindling down and they know March is turning around, that say, how can there be such despair? Like, how can it be that, we look at the net rankings and, you brought up Vanderbilt earlier, and I think they're in like the 40s, but, a week ago they're in the top. How can there be such disparity? And I feel like the results like this weekend are kind of it is really difficult to figure out outside of the first handful of teams, really, where anybody is between like 10 and 40 at this point.
Right, and that's why it'll be, it's almost impossible to get a perfect bracket. But it's not going to happen again because it's almost impossible.
Right.
Because we're going to have, I think it's going to be incredibly difficult to pick the upsets from any seed, really from 3 to 4 to 10.
Yeah.
Those are, I know they will be however Vegas views them, but they're going to be essentially, for the most part, pick-ems because all these teams are so equal. The line between them is very thin.
That's a great point. At the Andy Katz is, of course, how you follow him. And I know you've got about 1 million things on your plate. What can we specifically plug for you this week, man?
Well, I do this Monday poll reaction at 1 o'clock on Bleacher Report, so we'll see if Maryland gets in. We've got a number of interviews I did with speaking of with committee members and the metric guys and posting all that stuff this week. So you follow on the Andy Katz or on Instagram at the real Andy Katz, and obviously March Madness MBB. It gets reposted there.
Andy, really appreciate it. I know you're a busy dude. Thank you for squeezing us in this morning. We'd love to do it again soon.
All right, thanks.
Andy Katz with us here on GCR. Appreciate him taking the time for us on a Monday. Yeah, what a crazy weekend, right? I know a lot was made about, like, Kentucky fans booing John Calipari. Like, come on, man. Like, this is...
I love that they had him enter. It was like a WWE.
Like they did.
When he came out.
Yeah, right. Like, I don't... What do you... that's their... If you want to have that conversation... If you're a Kentucky fan and that bothers you... I get it, right? Like, I get it. If you say, hey, dude, this all this guy did was make our program relevant for a long time, maybe we could show a little bit more respect. But, like, he's coaching the other team. It's the thing that I say, like, who were we talking about this with recently about Patrick Queen? Like, I have no negative feelings towards Patrick Queen whatsoever. Patrick Queen came out and did events with us. He came on this show. He came on with Rita and I. he was despite my partner never willing to recognize it, he was an outstanding football player.
Once Roquan Smith got to town, yeah.
Yeah, no, it started before that. He was an outstanding football player. I have no negative feelings towards Patrick Queen, but he plays for the Steelers. Like, what do you want me to do with this? He's a Steeler. This is the way it's going to go. And by the way, I completely understood. None of us were rooting for Mike Messina when he was a Yankee. I defend Mike Messina to the death today, but when he was a Yankee, not a chance. I didn't want him to succeed. He was a Yankee. So I certainly understand Kentucky fans are like, dude, today we're going to boo him. One day when he's not coaching and he comes back here, we're going to love that guy. We are going to treat him like a king. But that day's not today. He's coaching against us, and obviously won. Yeah. So I think we get we make these like broad high horse type of statements like, oh, it's shameful that Kentucky fans would boo John Calipari. Like, dude, he's playing against them. You ever been to a college basketball game? You boo and say you suck every time someone is introduced before the game. You don't even know who they are. You hold up the newspapers. You do the whole thing.
Glenn Clark.
Yeah, boo, you suck. Like, that's college basketball. Like, I didn't watch all of it. I don't know if they tried to do like a thing during a timeout where they did like a video tribute or something like that.
I didn't watch either.
I was watching the Towson game on Saturday, and I was, of course, watching the Royal Rumble because that was the big sports story of the weekend. But like
until they ruined it, yeah.
No, until they got it right, like miraculously. But if they tried to do like a video tribute, I don't know I don't know how that would go over. I don't know. Like we all look, baseball. It's always been like when a player comes back for the first time, like the first at bat's supposed to be the hey, let's all recognize this player coming back and show him some love. That's always been the tradition within baseball. And then after that, we can move on with it and the whole thing. But college basketball, part of the reason we can do that in baseball is no one game is all that important. Like, we can cheer.
So you get to the last one. And then,
yeah, I mean, then it's if that's the. By the way, if somehow the 162nd game of the season is the first time that whoever comes, Anthony Santander comes back,
right? That's the first time they see him.
Like he's out all year. Then it's not gonna. And the Orioles and Blue Jays are playing for a playoff spot in game. I don't think it's gonna be the same thing in the first at bat for Anthony Santander. Like maybe, but I think it's gonna be a little bit different. Part of the reason why we're able to do this in baseball is because we all kind of recognize this game doesn't really matter all that much. Like it might, but in April it can't. There's so many more of them. So what? And we can cheer for the guy, even if he hits a home run. Like, who cares? Good for him. It's one home run in a 162-game season. But in college basketball, you certainly don't see things like this in the NFL. You never see these moments in the NFL. We do that in baseball. Could you imagine, like, in the NFL, that being the case? Like, let's stop the game and recognize the player that used to play for us that's back.
The reason you do it is to psych them out. It's like,
right. Like
they're like, what the hell?
Are these people? Are they
clapping?
Yeah. What the
I'm
hell's
wearing
going on?
Patrick Queen's like, I'm wearing a Steelers jersey, and they're clapping for me.
Why are they happy to see me here? Yeah, I guess like that could be a thought process. So you couldn't get me to get worked up about John Calipari getting booed at Kentucky. I don't think makes them bad fans. I don't know what the comparison would be. I can't even fathom what the comparison would be. Like if Gary Williams, after he retired, like decided the next season that he wanted to coach. It's just so.
And he coached for
Syracuse, right? Like something UConn, something along those lines. No.
Well,
it would have to be a conference rival.
Yeah,
so at the time they were still in the ACC.
Because it wasn't gonna be Duke or Carolina. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah,
like I don't. Clemson. He's the Clemson coach. I mean, it just seems so nutty that it's hard to even think through that. You can't get. I got nothing. I got nothing for that. Nothing about that can get me worked up. All right, winding down for hour number 1 of today's program. And again, the polls will come out today around 1 o'clock, and I assume that Maryland will be ranked this time around going into the matchup with Ohio State. But if you're a Maryland fan, maybe you kind of hope that they're not. Like, continue to use it as just
be pissed off.
If that can get you a little instead of feeling how good you are, you're angry about it, and you can channel that because, this is an Ohio State team that you bludgeoned the first time you played. It's so funny he brings up Tennessee, Florida, right? Because we remember the first time those teams played, Florida bludgeoned Tennessee. Killed them by like 30 points when they were number 1 and undefeated. And then flip-flop it. This is not going to be easy, even though you demolished Ohio State the first time you played them. This is going to be a very difficult trip. So maybe it would be good for Maryland fans if they had a team that was pissed off about it. There's this rumor, by the way, floating around that the NCAA might extend a 5th year of eligibility to anyone who was a high school senior during the COVID year.
Might as well.
Who
cares?
Well, it's that step towards like what we believe is going to be 5 years. Like
just
the NCAA is kind
5 years.
So they might just start because they know it's coming. They might just start offering it and use. Well, yeah, you weren't in college during COVID, but maybe you were somehow impacted during. We're just living in bizarre times, dog. Like some.
Well, they were impacted, yeah.
Yeah, but it's just some strange. But I think that we've already last year was already the first class of 4th year guys that would have.
So they would have been.
Yeah, because if you graduated in high school in 2020, then 2024 would have been your 4th year. So I don't know how this works exactly, but there's a rumor going around. Like I know uniquely to Maryland that somehow Juju Reese might get a 5th year of eligibility.
Let's go. Run it back.
Be great, right? If they can afford him. The problem is if he gets a 5th year of eligibility and it's at Kentucky. That's where
this has to be Hunter Dickinson's last year, right? So maybe it's Kansas.
You say that. He might end up being the – who was that guy? Perry
Ellis?
He might be the Perry Ellis where you just look up and you're like, that guy's definitely been here for 13
I guess
years.
At least for him, at least he's keeping his hair, I guess.
Yeah, he's got that going for him. All right, when we come back in, we'll talk about the week that was down at the Senior Bowl. Who caught the eye of SiriusXM's Jim Miller, who was down there and worked the broadcast on the radio side. This week's NFL Draft segment, we'll talk with Jim Miller. We'll also obviously talk a little bit about the Ravens and, I don't know, maybe the Super Bowl, though you can't get me to care. That's on the way as we continue along here on a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
COVID-19 and flu viruses are circulating in Maryland. But don't worry, protection is within arm's reach. Protect your health with this year's COVID-19 and flu shots. It's safe and convenient to get them both at the same time. Flex your protection. For more information, visit health.maryland.gov/vaccines.
This message paid for by the Maryland Department of Health.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. There, you just saved money with Easy Pass, all without slowing or receiving a notice in the mail. Well done, thrifty driver, well done. Get your Easy Pass at DriveEasyMD.com.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named number 1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, back in here on GCR. Let's continue along on a Monday edition of the program. It's final week and a half at this point for this print issue of Press Box. We are working on the new print issue, which will be available mid-month. If you haven't gotten the best of issue, make sure you get it before it's gone. Lamar Jackson on the cover. You can read it all at pressboxonline.com/bestof, but go get it for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms. I have hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. The annual best of issue of Press Box will be gone soon to be replaced by a baseball theme on the cover of the new print issue. Still to come, yes, we will catch up with Jeremy Conn. We will get a little bit more into, we haven't talked yet on this show about, really in depth about the trade. And Jeremy Conn, if you don't know, big Dallas Mavericks fan. So we will get his thoughts. It's very complicated because the Dallas Mavericks fans, Cowboys fans in Dallas, beside themselves. Cowboys fans in the rest of the country, their favorite basketball team has got a great player. They're fired up. So it's a very confusing time for various sports fans after Luka Doncic was traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. But among those things that were going on this past week was the Senior Bowl down in Mobile. Our next guest, who I know is an extraordinarily busy time for him because he's headed to the Super Bowl, he was down there broadcasting and calling the game on SiriusXM. He is, of course, a former NFL quarterback, SiriusXM NFL analyst, Mr. Jim Miller. He's back with us now here on GCR. Jim, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's always good to catch up. I know how insanely busy you are. Thank you for squeezing in a couple minutes with us.
You bet. Good to be with you.
Jim, the Senior Bowl game itself rarely produces anything that anybody really kind of cares about all that much. But, boy, what a moment that was. Beyond his story, what can you tell me about Jack Beck, the football player, and how intriguing he might be as a prospect?
Well, I think for him, I don't think he's got sudden speed. I think he's a really good football player, and obviously with what happened, in New Orleans, it became a focal point, obviously, with his family, and it was a very emotional down there. And you give the young man a lot of credit. He held it together. He won the Player of the Week award, and then it kind of all came out after the game. So he's a really good story. He's a solid football player. I don't think he'll be a high draft pick because there's not a lot of suddenness to his routes, but a great story and a good glue guy you want on your team. I think he'll be a latter round draft pick potentially.
I don't think the Ravens are going to be looking at wide receiver early, but with the depth beyond, Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman being shaky and a team that tried to address it with Deontay Johnson, it didn't work out. The thing that does jump out to me, Jim, is they could still use a prototype type of wide receiver, and I know that once you get past the first round, it's maybe hard. Is there anybody that you saw down there that you looked at and said, "Hey, man, this might be that type of guy," even though they're maybe not a first round type of prospect?
Well, there was a lot of good receivers. I think the two players out of the Iowa State Cyclones, Higgins. Yeah. And I believe it's Jay, and those guys, Noel is a great player. Both those guys I thought ran very precision routes. But if you look at the Oregon Duck, Tez Johnson, he's a lot like Tank Dell. I know he's only 160 pounds, soaking wet. He'll put on a little bit more weight, but, man, that guy is cat quick, and he'll break your ankles in the red zone. He is a very quick twitch player like a Tank Dell, and nobody could cover him in the red zone. So I think that's why he backed out of the game. He helped himself so much.
Right.
I think that's why he did not play.
I know that was a common theme for the Senior Bowl this week.
Yeah.
The guys that showed up, did some work, and then said, "Thanks, but no thanks, I'm out." And I'll go to – I know that edge rush was an area where we saw some of that, and I think that looks to be one of the areas that could be most compelling for the Ravens moving towards the draft. Is this edge rush class as good as it feels like everyone is making it out to be, Jim?
Oh, yeah. I think Jim Nagy thinks that. I think tight end, I think edge rushers, I think D linemen, and I think secondary players are very deep in this draft. You know, the edge rushers, obviously guys will back out like Walter Nolan. He had a very good week. There's no doubt about that. Thankfully, some guys did hang around that were impact players that I thought really balled out in the game. You got linebackers like Jeffrey Bassa out of Oregon. He had a really good weekend. I thought Darius Alexander had a very good weekend in terms of his pass rushing ability. Landon Jackson, there's a guy who stayed and did play in the game, and he had some big sacks. So get to know Landon Jackson. I think he's going to be a household name as an edge rusher.
What did you make of Mike Green from Marshall?
Well, he backed out.
Yeah.
You know, I think he showed flashes. I think he had one good play, I think, on a Wednesday and said, that's enough.
Right.
I did enough. So he's another guy that backed out. He should have stayed and did more, in my opinion.
Who went up against? Well, that was the play against the Penn State offensive tackle, right, where he buried him to the ground and then said, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm done. That's what everybody's going to talk about. So I'll let them talk about that and nothing else for the course of the week." Jim,
well, you know, it's unfortunate because a lot of it is agents, right? It's their agents, you know, that are, you know, and they're going to hurt themselves because those agents, you know, there's going to be a point in time where Jim Nagy or whoever is the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl has said, hey, either you're coming to play or
not
you know,
inviting.
don't come.
Yep.
And guess what? Don't ask me for another player to play in this game because you screwed me the last two times and there won't be a third.
Jim Miller is with us here on GCR. Jim, I want to ask you a question that's a little more, Ravens-centric. They have a situation. Ronnie Stanley is going to be a free agent, and they've been through a lot with Ronnie Stanley injury-wise over the last couple of years. But when he's been on the field, particularly this season, he was excellent. As a left tackle and a top left tackle, presumably the market could push towards like $25 million. I wonder which of these statements to you rings more true, which is the Ravens can't afford to pay Ronnie Stanley $25 million a year, given his history, or the Ravens can't afford not to pay Ronnie Stanley $25 million a year.
Yeah, I think, you know, that's all going to deal with the cap. He has been injured quite a bit lately, and I would think that they're probably going to go in a younger direction. You know, guys like Emory Jones, as a left tackle from LSU, really showed out and did some good things. Obviously, Zabel from North Dakota State, everybody thinks he's got position flexibility. I think he's a center all day long is what he's going to be. A lot of people think, oh, we'll just put him at left tackle or left guard.
Sheesh.
I think he's a center when it's all said and done.
That's quite the disparity between those things. I for a team that's so close, right? Like they did this last year where they turned over, 3/5 of their starting offensive line, and there were some growing pains, but the time they got there, it seemed to come together. Is it too clearly it's Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry. They are largely going to be running it back. Is it too much to try to make that change to a younger, whether it's the Roger Rosengarten or, to your point, a draft pick at a position that's so important on the field? Is it too dramatic to try to do that?
No, I think left tackle is a premier position. On offense, obviously, quarterback, obviously your left tackle is going to be the key component there. Some people put money, obviously, in the receivers, and that could be the case for Baltimore. I think they have done that. But, a guy like Rosengarten, I knew, when he came out of Washington last year, I talked to the coach there in Baltimore. He said he's just got to get stronger. He is a very good player. But upper body-wise, he's got to hit the weight room. And that's true for a lot of young offensive linemen. Pushing around kids in college is a lot different than pushing around grown men. And you got to be a lot stronger, and he needs about a good off-season in the weight room to increase his upper body strength.
I know that it's going to be the theme of, a lot of your coverage this week, that the Kansas City thing. It's just it's a 6 million pound gorilla, and we're feeling it here in Baltimore, Jim. How do you the Ravens are really good. We know that. How did they overcome this in the playoffs and finally break through moving forward? What is the difference? What isn't working for them in the postseason to make that next jump?
Well, I think it's situational play. If you were to break down, say, Buffalo, Baltimore, and Kansas City, you look at Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes in their offense, when key moments in a game and where situations are the greatest, they seem to thrive. I think Andy Reid prepares his team as good as anybody in situational play, especially off of a bye. Look at how they won the championship game. Nice misdirection play. They hit P. Ryan in the flat, and boom, it's an easy first down.
Yep.
So I just think it's situational play, the awareness of their quarterback. And I'll say this about Mahomes. If you look at Mahomes during the regular season, he runs about 3 times a game, where he'll get a first down. His average is about 4 yards a carry. But if you look at him when they turn to postseason, he's aware and conscious that he's going to take off with his legs. Go look at the championship game. He ran 11 times. That's like triple his total of what he does in the regular season. And if you go look at his postseason games, it's true of every postseason game he played in. So he's conscious in situational play to make some plays with his legs. And that's just all from Andy Reid. That's him talking to his quarterback. Hey, don't be afraid to tuck it and run. We know we got some tackle issues right now. Be conscious of that. And Patrick Mahomes is very aware of that.
It's funny you bring up Jim's situational. The question that I've asked and the topic that we've kind of dove into the last 3 weeks here in Baltimore has been, do the Ravens need to learn how to be more boring in the postseason? That for all of the greatness of Lamar Jackson and what we know he's capable of, he took a bad snap and turned it into a touchdown against the Bengals this season. But is that the lesson that they need to learn, which is in these moments, it's just not that Mark Andrews trying to cut outside. I get it. I know he's trying to make a play, but that wasn't what they needed in that moment, is the lesson that, hey, the Chiefs, they're not going to conspire. They're not going to help you. You've got to learn that in certain situations, what you're capable of doing isn't the thing that you need to do in these types of games.
Yeah. I hate to interchannel my Bill Belichick, but do your job.
Yeah.
You can't go outside of the 11 on offense. Everybody has a responsibility, and if you try to do too much, it'll throw things off. So it's risk-reward. Everybody's just got to do their job. If you do your job the way it's designed and don't go outside of it, that's where you have success as a collective unit. It's kind of like Sesame Street, right? Which one of these things is doing his own thing? Which one of these things? That's what it is. And you can't do that. You're a collective unit, and you've got to go with what's in the design of the play. Just do your job. Don't do more than what is asked of you to do.
To the point, Jim, is there anything about the roster itself or the team that you think is particularly important for them to change or upgrade, or is it just you just got to get back there and give it another shot?
Yeah, I think you got to keep on. You just got to keep on till you knock down the door.
Yeah.
I go back to that Buffalo versus Kansas City game. There was 13. What was that? The divisional round. 13 seconds left. 13 seconds left, and Kansas City pulls out the victory. That's a coaching mistake. That's not a player mistake. That was situationally played poorly by Sean McDermott. And that's what consistently other AFC teams have failed to do when they play Kansas City. And we'll see if it changes. You have the talent to do it. There's no doubt. But which one of these quarterbacks is going to break through? Is it Lamar? Is it Josh Allen?
Right.
Is it Justin Herbert with Jim Harbaugh? He looks to be on track now. That AFC is loaded.
Well, hopefully
with quarterbacks.
Hopefully the Bengals don't bother to get a defense anytime soon. Hopefully,
Joe Burrow. Throw him in the mix.
Yeah, right. Jim, if I could, because obviously this morning a big story. Myles Garrett has made it public that he has requested a trade from the Cleveland Browns. Is there a price that's not worth paying for? I don't know if the Browns are going to do it, but is there a price that is not worth paying for Myles Garrett?
He's probably him and T.J. Watt are probably the best pass rushers in football, in my opinion. Some would argue it's Micah Parsons, but Micah will probably be the most paid when Dallas gets this done. But Myles is up there. He's why he's a defensive player of the year. He's a very powerful young man, but you have to be injury conscious with him too. He needs 2 foot surgeries. He had both as a kid, and he already stated he needs 2 this year. So buyer beware is what I'd say. And I would think the compensation, which probably would be 2 first-rounders.
That's what I would think.
Would be in the mix for him. And that's if Cleveland wants to move on. They got the issues with Deshaun Watson on the offensive side of the ball. Do they really want to open up the can of worms on the defensive side of the ball? He's their best player. He's their best player.
I get it. I totally understand it. Jim, can we plug what you guys have going on down in New Orleans this week?
Yeah, man, we got. We're going to be on Radio Row all week. So tonight we'll be at the Players' Night. We're going to interview both the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. They want to get all their interviews done for the week, and we'll just put them in the can and just start releasing them as the week goes along. And it should be a good rematch. I think we know Philadelphia is a very powerful team, but I think we know history is that's what Kansas City's going for. I think they'll be ready to play with Spagnuolo.
It won't look. It's a big game. I assume they're winning it. That's the way that it works. Jim Miller _NFL is how you follow him, and of course SiriusXM NFL Radio all week this week down in New Orleans. Jim, really appreciate you squeezing us in, man. Thank you so much for doing it.
All right, guys, enjoy the game.
Jim Miller with us here on GCR. Yeah, that just came down this morning. Myles Garrett. I think Brian Powell sent me the statement that he put out. Here we go. As a kid dreaming of the NFL, all I focused on was the ultimate goal of winning a Super Bowl, and that goal fuels me more today than ever. My love for the community of Northeast Ohio and the incredible fan base of the Cleveland Browns has made this one of the toughest decisions of my life. These past 8 years have shaped me into the man that I am today. While I've loved calling this city my home, my desire to win and compete on the biggest stages won't allow me to be complacent. The goal was never to go from Cleveland to Canton. It has always been to compete for and win a Super Bowl. With that in mind, I have requested to be traded from the Cleveland Browns. Look, we're all going to have visions of sugar plums dancing through our heads. Let's be pretty clear about this. It ain't happening. It's not Baltimore. I mean, it's not. For multiple reasons. One being because, have you met the Baltimore Ravens? Are you familiar with them and how they do their business? Now, if your opinion is, well, this is a player that you should change that for, I completely understand. But Baltimore Ravens, this is not what they do. Secondarily, even if there was a time for you to say, hey, well, change what you do, you can't believe that the Browns, if they're going to trade Myles Garrett, would trade him within the division. Like, you can't. I know that we live in an era where bat-S trades occur.
Like what? What, the Aaron Fox thing? I mean, yeah, I guess.
Right, that was kind of crazy. Kevin Huerter to the Bulls? That's nuts.
The Chicago Terps over there.
That's right. Kevin Huerter and Jalen Smith united in Chicago at the United Center.
Everyone knew.
I know that we watched all we've done all season long is replay. What is his name? Joe Shane, the general manager of the Giants, and which one of the mayors was it that came into the office and said, "I'm gonna really struggle with this if he."
Oh, it was Mara.
Right. That's what I said. Which one of the mayors? That's what I said. Yeah,
John Mara. Yeah.
I thought it was Mara. Are you sure it's Mara?
I thought it was Mara.
I'm pretty sure it's Mara.
I thought it was Mara. I don't know. I feel like I watched that show and it was Mara. I don't know. I could be wrong. We know who we're talking about.
Yeah, I really want to know the answer to this question because I've definitely said Wellington Mara and Kate Mara, and I've just always. If you're telling me something, you're telling me something. And I sure as hell did not watch this show, so if you learned that we've been saying it the wrong way for 40 years, then I don't know when the next time is that I'm going to say one of those names, but I'll say it correctly. Get to the bottom of that.
I don't think he's going to come after you or anything.
Did you find the answer? Did you look it up?
I'm trying to pull up a video. And
anyway, moral of the story being, I cannot. That's all we've done all year is discuss how bat-S insane it was, and that wasn't even a trade. They didn't even have control over it, but that they allowed it to be possible. And it's easy. There are Giants fans who are like, whatever, I don't know. I feel good for Saquon Barkley. Like, we were going to suck anyway. But there's some Giants fans that act that way. There's a lot more who are despondent. I cannot fathom the Cleveland Browns trading Myles Garrett within the division, even if it was the type of thing that the Ravens would do. It's one of those, seems cool, but stop. And the Ravens don't really have, They're not really in position to do this. They're not. Like, that's the other part of it. The draft picks are more important to the Ravens in the Lamar Jackson contract. You know, particularly if you're not able to rework it this offseason.
Unless they go, L.A. Rams and
sell out
burn
for
everything
1 year. Yes, correct.
for this year.
And look, that we've had that conversation a number of times. We had it at the trade deadline this year. Like, if there was ever a time for the Ravens to, we can say that all we want. But still, even if that's the case, it ain't going to be Myles Garrett. Yeah, I know. We all want to believe. It's like somebody telling you that there's no tooth fairy. By the way, nobody talks to you about how, like in baby class when you become a parent, how difficult it's going to be the tooth fairy. Like, you got to stealthily. And if my old ass house, like our house is 100 years old.
We just drug them right that night.
Yeah, every board creaks. Last night I had to go in there, like, try to get underneath the pillow and not wake up my younger son in the process. And my older son's starting to figure things out. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, nobody tells you how difficult tooth fairying is.
He's setting traps and
yeah, right. He's got cameras in the room. Like, I'm gonna see this tooth fairy.
So did they catch the tooth fairy?
Oh, by the way, so here's the crazy part. The kid didn't actually lose his tooth yet. He lost his tooth on Thursday, apparently, but Mrs. Clark forgot because he was somewhere else when he lost the tooth. And the tooth didn't make it to our house. I don't remember.
And I'm sure he was upset that he was like, oh, no.
Right. And so on Saturday, he was spending the night at his grandmother's house. Like, whatever. Maybe it was Friday he lost the tooth.
The tooth fairy doesn't work weekends.
Yeah, it was like this whole thing. And so last night he's getting ready to go to bed. He's like, oh, I need to leave a note for the tooth fairy explaining what happened. And I'm like, oh, yeah, obviously you got to do that. So he writes out this lengthy, dear tooth fairy, I lost the tooth on Friday.
He's got writing in his future.
I
I
left it at my friend's house or whatever. I wasn't home last night. I'm so sorry. I apologize for not having your tooth for you or whatever. Like, he writes this entire missive out. Well, now I've got to somehow snag this note out from underneath the pillow. Then shove some dollar bills underneath. Apparently my wife maybe has a side job at a strip club because it's all ones. Like, I'm like, why do we have so many ones?
That's how the tooth fairy operates.
We're giving him also, why is it $5 for a tooth? We didn't even get the tooth. $5. Tooth fairying. It's a bit much. It's a bit. And then before he goes to bed, he's like, hey, did you email the tooth fairy to tell her that I want you to warn her so that she knows to come to the house. Like, she'll get my letter, but how will she know to come to the house if I don't have the tooth there? And I'm like, all right, kid. So I gotta go through this whole. I gotta create a fake email address for the tooth fairy.
What is it so I know for the future?
Yeah, right. Tooth fairy TF or something. I don't remember what I created. I've done it for Santa Claus too, by the way. Of course, Santa Claus is real. Everybody knows that. Like, Santa Claus, there is a real
email.
Santa Claus. But there's so many people that, like, it's hard for him to catch all of his emails. So sometimes I have to create a fake email address.
A high priority,
Yeah, right? Like, because I don't know if he's going to see all of the emails. God, there's a lot going on with the tooth fairy.
What about the Easter Bunny's email? What's his?
Yeah, we're not. We don't play that game. There's none of that. That's a guy in a suit in our house. Yeah. Yeah, we don't play the Easter Bunny game. There's a limit to that. When we were 4, maybe, but we're 9 and 10. My older son's about to be 10. He's turning 10 on Wednesday. We're not going to continue this charade for that much longer. You can still be excited to see a guy in a suit. Like that.
I think that was my favorite one because there's a little bit of competition to it. You got to find the most Easter eggs.
Well, yeah, but what does that do with the bunny?
Well, just because he created something that I could.
Well, he's not looking out for you.
Well, I mean,
yeah, he's just looking out for everybody the same way.
Well, yeah, but
Santa Claus looks out for you
because I always win the Easter egg hunt. So
yeah, all right, whatever.
That was the most fun one.
I might have just ruined someone's day by pretending that the tooth fairy wasn't real.
I feel like no one listening.
I just might have. I might have created a problem for someone.
Like what?
Yeah, right. Well, I always had to catch myself, like, things that we would talk about, particularly on the radio. There are people I'm sure that listen to this podcast in the car.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And, like, there are kids in the car, and that was something that I always had to deal with when I was on the radio, like, every day. Is that it was prime picking up the kids territory or dropping the kids off at school.
Right.
Like on Sunday afternoon, not as or the night show that we do, maybe not as big of a concern. But when I was doing mornings and when I was doing afternoons, I had to be a little bit more cognizant of the likelihood of the kids being in the car and somebody not being thrilled about a particular subject that I was discussing.
What are they going to do about it?
On adult male-driven radio. Didn't always love that particular topic.
What could possibly come up that they wouldn't like?
Didn't always love what I was getting into. But, all right. Anyway, what are we doing? Oh, let's grab a break, and we'll talk to Jeremy. We haven't talked about the trade, the big trade. P.J. Tucker was traded this weekend.
P.J. Tucker on the move.
I don't remember who he was traded to. I don't remember. I couldn't tell you.
No,
he
was
traded
on the Clippers.
from the Clippers to somewhere.
An NBA team, probably.
Somewhere, I'm sure. We'll talk to Jeremy Conn, noted Mavs fan. We'll get his thoughts on the deal. Today's show is also brought to you by, or just a reminder that the Brigance Brigade is holding their big fundraiser. Their winter soiree is coming up at Martin's West on February 21st. That's 2 weeks from this Friday. Get your tickets right now by going to brigancebrigade.org. It's a great night, celebrates the work that the Brigance Brigade does, lifting up those that are fighting ALS. We all know O.J. Brigance, one of the great human beings that our city has ever known, and certainly one of the great sporting heroes that we've seen his courageous fight. And in his honor, they try to lift up everybody else. So great live music and food and dancing and live auctions, celebrity appearances. Great night for the Brigance Brigade Winter Soiree. Coming up February 21st, brigancebrigade.org. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. Learn more at DriveEasyMD.com.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their amazingly scrumptious, fat, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. Every season is crab season at Costas, so make your plans now by calling 410-477-1975 and reserve your taste of heaven. Sit back, crack some crabs, and watch the Ravens chase down another title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday nights, Costas offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30, and there are nightly specials Monday through Friday. So head on down to the Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at costasinn.com.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
COVID-19 and flu viruses are circulating in Maryland. But don't worry, protection is within arm's reach. Protect your health with this year's COVID-19 and flu shots. It's safe and convenient to get them both at the same time. Flex your protection. For more information, visit health.maryland.gov/vaccines.
This message paid for by the Maryland Department of Health.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Monday edition of the program. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that happened this week. Griffin, you got your big Pro Bowl breakdown that we're
Yeah, NFC
not going to
3
do. We're not going to do
years in a
anything
row.
about it
So
whatsoever.
Peyton,
We're
I don't know,
not
they're gonna
going to. We're not going to discuss that even a little.
So I guess
We're
Eli
not going to talk about it. It's not going
have to pick
happen.
Eli in the kick of destiny.
Jack
too.
Flaherty signs with the Tigers, so scratch one more name off the list. I believe Nick Pivetta is still the only. Andrew Heaney is still available. Those are the only starting pitchers of. Or, we talked about Clayton Kershaw last week. Clayton Kershaw is still available. It's what it is, man. It's what it is. I think the most of us had assumed that at this point, if the Orioles were going to do something pitching-wise, the answer was probably going to be via a trade. And that, of course, certainly still is on the table, and I'm not opposed. But it is... It's tough. It's tough to stomach the idea of knowing you needed to upgrade your pitching staff and allegedly having more money to spend, and the only money that you spent was on Charlie Morton and Sagano. That's tough. It's tough. But, hopefully there is still a trade to be had. Hopefully there is still a move to make. It seemed like the Birdland Caravan was a great weekend. Great week. Everybody seemed to have a great time. Our buddy Eric was drunkenly singing All Time Low with Ryan Mountcastle on Friday night. That was fun, but with all due respect, I'd rather get some more players. That's just my opinion on the subject. All right, I've been waiting to talk to this man because I can only imagine how worked up he is. He is, of course, Jeremy Conn, and we bring him in because we need to get his thoughts. Beyonce winning Best Country Album, man? What's going on? What the heck?
Yeah, man, it's crazy. Like, I do, by the way, just speaking on that, I like all the people bitching about Beyonce winning that are still listening to Jelly Roll and Post Malone.
I mean, for Christ's sakes.
Those are country stars. I don't know.
Yeah, by the way, Beyonce's record was phenomenal. It's incredible that they it was deserving of Album of the Year. If it's a country album, it deserves to be Country Album of the Year because it was phenomenal. It was an outstanding album. All right, so I can't even imagine. And I know, like, it's a little bit when you're a fan of a team and you're in the city every day, it becomes a little bit different. But people are aware that you're a Mavs fan. Is there any piece of this that you come back to, like, maybe it's not the worst thing that I've ever heard, or is this really, like, the bleakest thing that you've ever experienced as the fan of a team?
I think it's the bleakest, man, because, like, I'm not even sure that I want to root for the Mavericks anymore with the way that they did Luka. I mean, it's just, if I'm a free agent, I would seriously second-guess going there after what just happened. And, look, I would say this to anyone else, like, outside of the Orioles, because it's the only team I grew up with, Luka's my favorite athlete in all of sports right now. My favorite guy to watch, my favorite, player. I know he bitches a lot and he cries to the refs. He's not a great defensive player, but the guy's a freaking generational talent. And like I was telling Ed this morning, I said it's so weird. Like, I enjoy watching him play so much that it's not even about the championships, but hell, he did put him on his back and take him to the championship last year. And it's like, yeah, we want to see if we can win with AD because Luka doesn't play defense and he got chubby. But you're trading for a guy whose nickname is Mr. Glass. And that being said, like, I don't want to be unfair to AD, who's a phenomenal player.
Right.
You just don't trade nobody trades a 25-year-old guy that's going into his prime, regardless of what you think about him, the injuries coming off of, for a 31-year-old player, an okay wing. Like, if you want to just add him in, he's probably best to be a 6th or 7th man off the bench in Christie. And then you get a first-round pick that it's not going to mean anything, especially if the Lakers are good. So I think it's one of the worst trades in NBA history.
It's really hard for me to think of anything other than that. Like, it is so hard, and like listening to the guy talk. What is it, Nico Harrison? Listening to him talk,
God,
like you just you feel like you're watching I think you should leave sketch. Like, you feel like you're watching someone that has no idea what they're doing. Like, he's saying. We were talking about it, and Rob Pelinka's like, "Wait, you would really do that? I got one over." Like, what, dude? What are you? How are these words coming out of your mouth?
And like, it makes me wonder. Now, people don't realize, like, Mark is no longer the majority stakeholder in ownership there. He still has a small portion of it, but they didn't even call him to let him know what was going on, because when Cuban was the owner, Cuban said, "If you told me I got to pick between Luka and my wife, meet me at the courthouse."
Right.
So like, he was pissed off that they moved him. But there's so many other things with this. Like, Nico is the same guy that dropped the bag on the Nike deal with Steph Curry because he kept calling him Seth. And it's just like, I just want to know about new ownership. How did they convince you to let this happen? Like, there's nothing that guy could have come to me, even not knowing anything about basketball, going, you want us to trade for Mr. Glass and give up a player that there's not a fair trade for him. It's just not.
No, not even a little bit. And again, part of that being, if you were willing to trade Luka Doncic, which to your point, why? But if you were willing, how are there not more phone calls made? Like, how in the world? It's organizational malpractice. How is a GM just going to talk to one team and one team only to find out what the value is? Like, it's difficult because I think for a lot of people that are otherwise neutral, you do have these, like, things running through your mind. Like, is there a chance that this dude is, like, a double agent of some sort? Like, is there a chance that, like, the league is rigged?
Oh, yeah.
Like, this is...
You
How
hear the
does this
conspiracy
happen?
theorists, and I don't buy into it, but you have to with this.
Right.
It's just like, it doesn't make any sense.
You just traded Luka Doncic without finding out how much Luka Doncic was worth.
When's the last time a player who was 25 years old, that's a generational talent, I don't care what sport, pick it, that didn't force his way out, that got traded?
Right.
Like, every team envisions drafting this guy and keeping him for the rest of his career, except for Nico when he comes in to take over this team because, defense is more important. So, hey, let's just go trade away the guy that has the second most playoff points behind LeBron. I mean, it's ridiculous when you think about what he's done already at the age of 25.
I don't know that the Mavericks were going to win a title with Luka Doncic, right? Like, I have no idea. But I also know that, like, the Lakers aren't going to win a title with Luka Doncic this year. But they understand we have Luka Doncic moving forward. And whatever we do, it greatly improves our chances of winning a title because we have Luka Doncic moving forward.
One thing that I'm excited about, though, I think the Mavs lit a fire under him. I think we're going to see the best Luka we've ever seen when he comes back. And I cannot wait for his first game in Dallas, and I hope he drops 80 on him and shoves it up their rear end.
I mean, this is one of the we are guilty of hyperbole in sports all the time and like recency bias. This is as badass as any move I've ever. I am really hard pressed to come up with anything that compares to this. Like.
I've tried to, like, comparatively speaking with other sports. The one that I came up, just so Oriole fans can understand, it'd be like calling the Yankees right now and trading Gunnar Henderson for Giancarlo Stanton. Like, he's not a bad player. He can hit you a bunch of home runs. He's often injured. You could win with him, but why would you give up a young player that you had so much control over? And if he didn't want to leave, it baffles me. And then the fact that you didn't even give him the chance to get a sign and trade in, you still had all of next year. Why was there such a push to get him out so quickly?
I'm telling you, man, like, it really makes me think. It just makes you think about whether or not someone is like the NBA said, we still owe the Lakers for the Chris Paul thing. Like, we still have to somehow we owe someone a solid here. Like, my God.
Bob was pointed out today, like Shaq, Kobe, even the Paul Gasol trade. The Chris Paul thing is the only one that didn't work out because the Pelicans didn't have an owner, and the league was running it, so they. I mean, people were saying that the league should come in now and say that this trade is null and void, which would be hilarious because now Luka would definitely force his way out of that.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's no coming back from that.
But the thing that I can't get past, and I know it's such a silly thing, is like if you did this on NBA 2K, the video game
would say this is nonsense. Yes, this is not happening. Like,
this is an unfair trade. We can't. We at NBA 2K can't allow this to happen.
There are fantasy football leagues where they won't let you trade certain players. Like, you're not allowed to because, like, any trade there'd be upheaval within your fantasy football league. So they just say, nope, you can't trade that guy. And you're like, well, why not? I think I can make a fair trade for him. They're like, no. By
the way, do you know who else is a really amazing offensive player that doesn't play defense? His name's Nikola Jokic. Go ahead and call Denver and see if they do.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's just. Oh God!
It's nuts, man. I mean, it's nuts. It's really insane.
Well, thanks for bringing that up again.
Other than that, how's everything going? God,
I just I don't know. Like, I was trying to talk to people today, and I don't know what it felt like when the Colts left town in the middle of the night. And I'm not saying this is the same thing for anyone,
right? But
it's the only thing in my mind that I could look at and go, if they had to feel worse than I did, and I feel awful right now. Like, I'm so angry. I'm so angry at the Mavericks that I don't even know if I want to root for this.
Well, that is a fair point that you bring up. As I say, like when it's not intrinsic to your region where you are, like obviously if you live in Dallas, you're going to continue to be a Mavericks fan because that's the team that you have. But for you, and I don't know, like what do you do?
Yeah, if the Orioles made that hypothetical BS trade I just said, I'd still be an Oriole fan after trading Gunner. I'd be really angry. Like right now, I've rooted for the Mavericks for so long, it just feels weird, and I'm going, I can't believe they did their superstar like this. Like a guy that's all he's ever done is, put butts in seats and get you playoff appearances, almost win an MVP, which I know that's not almost winning, but he's been in the conversation every year.
Well, got you at the finals a year ago. That happened. Like that was a thing. All right. Well, let's cover some much more fun and lighthearted topics like Justin Tucker. Jesus Christ. I don't really.
Say that again?
I said let's cover some. Oh, of course, of all the times. I said let's cover some more fun and lighthearted topics like Justin Tucker.
Oh God.
Yeah.
We haven't had a chance to talk about this. You and I, right?
I don't really. I hate saying this because it feels like when I say it, I'm hiding from it or I'm running away from it. I don't know what else there is to say at this point. Like, I've said everything. The allegations are awful. If anybody is attempting to defend, you're out of your effing mind. But I don't see a lot of that. I think for the most part, any reasonable thinking person understands how heinous these allegations are. And I don't know what happens next. And that part is more complicated than we want. It's easy for certain people to say, well, that's it, he's just gone. Or it's easy for people to say, well, the Chiefs have Kareem Hunt and, the Ravens have to stop this. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know. I have no clue what you do in this situation. It's hard for me to believe that the Baltimore Ravens didn't know about it, but let's just pretend that at least some of the decision makers within the Ravens didn't know anything about this. They're finding it out now. I don't know what the answer is. It's not easy to me.
Well, the hard thing for me is, I'm kind of surprised that I never brought it up to you, but I was really careful about talking about it. But like I've known about this for years, but everything was alleged. Like there was nobody's coming forward. Like people said, well, why didn't you bring it up? Why didn't you say anything? I'm like, you want me to slander a man that I don't know if it's true? Now I trust the people that told me. I know 3 of the people involved, and like I actually got a text this weekend saying they do have, some evidence. Apparently somebody pulled the old Monica Lewinsky and that they do have some evidence on this. And I don't know what the statute of limitations are. I don't know if he gets in trouble legally or if it's something where he's paying out. But I believe every one of these girls. I do in my heart of hearts. And I love the Justin Tucker. Like, when people start coming out and questioning it, like the weird thing is people always want to bring up, why did they do it so late? I mean, until you've been through something like this or dealt with it, like it's not an easy thing to tell people or talk about.
Right. Yeah. That enough of this, enough of anything. It's deflection is all it is. Enough of
and
any
do you know
of
how
the
it got out?
deflection.
Have you heard this?
You tell what you heard. Yeah.
I'll give you the story of what I heard. So like early in January, I went out with a bunch of friends. One of my close friends died from a heart issue in his early 40s, and his wife had texted the group saying, hey, can we get together and just, kind of celebrate John? And I'm like, yeah, of course we can do that. That would be great. Like, I think everyone would love that. And so we did that. We all got together, and she started telling me, which I already knew the story about Tucker. She goes, you remember everything going on with Tucker? Like, so apparently I think the girl from the Baltimore Banner was at the salon getting her hair done or getting something done, and she overheard 2 stylists talking about it. And that's how the whole investigation really kind of got going, according to what I heard. Now,
yeah, I've heard some other things, but I'll leave it.
Okay.
Like I'm gonna choose. I'll tell you at some point. If I told you who I heard it from first, you would die. Like it just makes no sense. And I'll tell you about that at some point. I don't know, man. I don't have it in me. I would tell you that the part that's really fascinating to me is that the Ravens allegedly have a zero tolerance policy, but as the Banner rightfully pointed out, we have no idea what that means. No clue, because to this point it's just something they say, right? Like Dalvin Cook had an open investigation into a domestic violence incident when they signed him. Obviously there was an investigation related to Zay Flowers a year. We don't know what they have zero tolerance for. We don't know, and they're not going to tell us. They're just not. They're just going to keep hiding behind these words, zero tolerance policy. As an idea, I like it. I would rather not have people on the team that I root for be people that I'm conflicted about rooting for. I'm glad Aroldis Chapman was never a Baltimore Oriole. I'm glad that the Ravens were never going to be involved with Antonio Brown, right? Like I'm glad about those things, but I also get that it's not always black and white, and somebody would always say, well, how'd you feel about Terrell Suggs, right? And there's no easy answer to any of this. It's not. We want to make it simplistic, but it's not simplistic other than to say these allegations are awful and there's no defense of them. Beyond that, I can't say anything easily.
So with this, and would you agree with me that everything changed after the Ray Rice incident? Because before we saw the thing on video, the longest suspension for anyone because of domestic violence was 2 games, and that's because he had already been suspended for 1 game because he did it before. Like they weren't suspending these guys for it. So it was, things were different back then, and I'm not giving them a pass for it, but nowadays when these things come down, like Ezekiel Elliott got suspended for 6 games or whatever it was after there was an investigation done, and they didn't find him at fault. They didn't find the witnesses to be viable. They still suspended him. So
it's so interesting you say that, because it's complicated, right? Like I know Florio wrote about it at Pro Football Talk, but one thing that was brought up to me this weekend was if you're with Justin Tucker, what you try to do quickly is reach out to all of these people, offer them some sort of settlement, even if the statute of limitations has run up. You attempt to come up with a settlement that involves them signing NDAs so that then they can't talk to the NFL. Because if they can't talk to the NFL, then the NFL can't punish you. But I don't know, because to your point, this is what makes this also very difficult, man. There is a preponderance of evidence here for the NFL to ultimately just shrug their shoulders, sorry, nothing we can do, seems wild. It seems beyond believability.
Yeah, I know people. This is why I don't understand why people put, especially politicians, up there, but all their fandom for celebrities, whether it's an actor, a musician. And I was making this earlier. People come to these football players and defend them right off the bat, regardless of what the details might be. But when it came to politics, there were so many people going, I'm not watching this guy's, what was it, De Niro, I'm not watching his movies anymore.
Right.
Or James Woods, I'm not watching his movies. I'm not listening to Taylor Swift because she supported Kamala. All these things that were going on, and I'm looking at people going, what does it matter? Do you enjoy their music? Do you enjoy their movies? I think people be shocked at how many baseball players voted for Trump. I don't know why you're shocked. They're trying to keep their damn money. So it's just some of these things that we see today in society and how things get broken down. I don't know. It just seems a little ass backwards to me.
Yeah. It's I would say the weirder part, because I'm largely of that opinion, but the weirder part is what's not a deal breaker, right? That to me is the weirder part. It's a much weirder part that again, there were lots of Ravens fans that wanted Antonio Brown. They saw that text message. They saw him admit to committing sexual assault, and they said, "Yeah, not a deal breaker. I want Antonio Brown."
So they can get to football,
right? That part to me, and for some of them, they'd say, "No, I think he's scum." But if they don't sign him, someone else is signing him. So I want him. I don't want to go up against him. I want him to be on that. Boy, it's just so back asswards, man. It is such a bizarre world that we live in, bro. I struggle with that big time. All right, I got to come up with something. Did you watch Kings of Tupelo by chance?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Please watch Kings. Please watch Kings of Tupelo. Please.
Did you watch Dear Zachary?
Oh no, I'm not. I can't do it. I told you, it's too much. I can't do that. I can't.
I want you to watch it to tell me that you hate my guts for recommending it.
Yeah, that's too.
It's going to tear your heart apart.
You know what I did? I spent time with 2 things this weekend. Oh God, I did spend time with the Royal Rumble. Obviously, I did do that. But I
flipped over to that for a second.
It was
and watched the ladies Royal Rumble, and
that one was
that one
was not as great. The two things that I watched this weekend. Oh God, I watched the Tom Green documentary on.
I want to see that
on Prime. You're not gonna learn anything new, but like remembering just how crazy of a phenomenon it was. Like,
I mean, wasn't he the guy that started podcasting before everyone? Isn't he?
Yeah,
he
like started live streaming. Yeah, he was the guy. Like he set up this whole studio in his house in like 2009 or something like that. And was doing, like Joe Rogan has said that's how the Joe Rogan show came about. Is I did Tom Green's show, and I was like, oh, well, like this is something that people should do. I just reliving all of it, like remembering, dude, like unlike
were you a huge fan?
I was a big fan. I was a big fan. And it's the type of thing that can't exist anymore. And like they do acknowledge how quickly it was impossible for them to make the show because everybody recognized him, right? Like all of these stunts that they were doing within a year, they couldn't do anymore because if he would go somewhere, they'd be like, right, that's Tom Green. Howard, like, we know who you are. You can't do Undercutter's Pizza. We know exactly who you are. But like, it was always the stuff we always loved the Bam Margera stuff with like his dad. We loved that, and remembering that like Tom Green painted like a pornographic scene on the front of his father's car, and then drove the car down to the bus. His dad walked to the bus stop. And Tom Green drove the car to the bus stop where his dad was waiting with his friends. Like anymore, that's the type of stuff that when you see it on the internet, it's fake. Like Griffin loves the stupid Impractical Joker show, and I'm like, I attempted to watch it once. Oh,
thank you.
It's so low rent. It's so obviously fake.
No.
I can't do it. Even if it's funny, I just can't do the fake part of it. It's like watching these people like lip sync on the Grammys. I'm like,
they got me hooked when they did the buffet thing where you had to steal food off of other people's plates, like after they had put it on their plate, and then they would weigh it to see who had the most food. Like I died laughing at that bit and how crazy it was. But you're right. Like, good.
It's a funny concept. It's just so fake. Like. There's so much.
It's really not. I mean, now it's like
there's
more
incredible
forced
production value to all of it. Like you can see, there is no way to get people to believe that there's something else going on. Like you can't do that. And it's fine. Like
the early seasons
they seem like good guys. The whole thing, like the whole thing. But like it's impossible to do it, and that's what the internet is. The internet anymore is just a bunch of fake bits. It's just a bunch of people that go on and they're like, oh, I'm going to surprise my husband and come out with like we all know this is fake. Like we can all see it. But that was what made Tom Green so great. It was what made Jackass so great in its infancy was it wasn't fake. They would actually do these things, these sketches, and they couldn't get people to sign NDAs, or sign whatever the release agreements were. They had to waste a lot of footage.
How old are you?
I'm 41.
So, like, how much was MTV a part of your
every day?
Your childhood.
Every day.
See, and the funniest thing for me is like I remember doing the knuckle shuffle to the grind. That's how far I go back.
Yeah,
so,
wow. What was that guy? Eric. What the hell was his name? Christ.
I don't even remember the guy's
Eric
name now.
Meese? Is that what his name was? All right, go ahead. Sorry, I'm gonna find that.
But no, like even Adam Sandler got his start on Remote Control, which was Colin Quinn did. And he was one of the guys that would come out and do like stupid skits on like a Jeopardy type show. And, like my whole childhood, Beavis and Butthead, Jackass that you brought up, like all these Tom Green, and even going back to music videos when they were popular. I don't ever want to see a 7-minute November Rain video. I hated that video. I know most people loved it, but like it was such a huge part of my childhood. And it's weird now to kind of look back on some of the things that really kind of molded me and my humor, I guess you would say, like Tom Green doing stupid things.
Oh my God, man!
Singing, "Daddy, would you like some sausage?"
Yeah, I know you love Freddie Got Fingered. I did not love Freddie Got that. It was the Little Nicky for me. It was like, dude, whatever your vision was here, it just didn't execute.
But I like Little Nicky too. But I'm a sucker.
I'm sure you did. It's the people that love Hot Rod, where you're like, I
love Hot Rod.
I know you do, and I've tried rewatching it because Kyle used to fight with me all the time.
The 100 Wizards with their wizard sleeves and all that.
It's not good. It's not a good film. But I rented Road Trip every weekend for 16 consecutive weekends. That's a straight shoot. I rented Road Trip every weekend because I wasn't allowed to. I guess it was rated R, and like I couldn't purchase an R-rated movie. But my buddy was. We were. I don't know. I think we worked. He worked at the Blockbuster, and so he would let us rent. We rented it 18 consecutive weekends. We loved that movie that bad.
Can I tell you my worst road trip? You'll appreciate this because being in radio, every once in a while you get a bunch of movie tickets, movie premieres, and we get to go to them. Like back when I was at NST, like they would mail them directly to me, so I could go to every freaking movie I wanted to go to. So we went to Road Trip and saw it in the theaters, and they gave out Road Trip condoms.
Oh hell yes! Hell yeah!
And did I tell you this story?
No. Did you use one?
Yeah, I reached into the drawer and went to use a Road Trip condom, and then I found out they were unlubricated.
Oh!
Because, like, the old boy almost caught on fire. Like, it was like someone gave him, and I don't even know if you can say Indian burn, but I'm just trying to give you the idea.
Remember what I was talking about earlier about, kids listening? Remember that conversation?
Yeah. It was unbelievable because I not only jumped up and started screaming, so did my ex-wife.
That's tremendous. That is a tremendous story. That's
so
great.
When you see condoms are lubricated, that's a good thing.
By the way, so this came up earlier because I there's things on the radio you're not like on the radio you can't say like, hey, the tooth fairy isn't real because you just never know when there's like a kid listening and you can't do that. So the last segment I was venting my frustration about like how difficult it is now at the kids' ages to still have to do the tooth fairying. Where like last night I'm like trying to stealthily sneak into my son's room and do the whole bit. And I realized, like, oh, God, I just said the tooth fairy isn't real. Like, I wonder if there's somebody listening with their kids right now. Like, I got to...
People let me know during the World of Stupid whenever I'm talking about it.
Dude, that's the... Like,
this morning I talked about penises and the guy that got his frozen to the ground.
I hadn't heard that story. I was not...
Oh, yeah, he was getting arrested. He was naked, and the police put him down, face down, and it was just like a Christmas story. His penis got stuck to the frozen ground. And they're trying to lift him up, and he's screaming. I retweeted the story if you want to check it out.
I'll go look at it. Who am I kidding?
There's a video, too.
I said that to Griffin. Like, we're doing adult male-driven radio, and I would constantly get like a, hey, my kids are in the car. Like, I don't know, man. So then we tried doing a bit where I'd be like, adult content alert. Adult content alert. We're going to discuss a topic that has adult content. Return to us in 5 minutes. Like, I would try to do something like that. It's too much. But I didn't do I should have done that for the tooth fairy story. I should have done that. I am sick of it. I'm sick of trying to do the tooth fairying. Like I feel like my older son's about to be 10, the younger son's 7. I feel like we can just say, dude, when you lose a tooth, we'll trade you $5. Like I feel like we don't need to continue to go with the charade. They've had enough years of enjoying the tooth fairy charade at this point. I feel like we can just trade them some cash.
Glenn, my ex-wife ruined it for us in the beginning because as soon as Peyton lost his first tooth, she put $20 under his tooth.
What?
And I looked at her and I'm going, what the hell is wrong with you? Don't you know he's going to expect this? You know how many teeth he has in his damn mouth? Like,
God.
Start pulling them.
Yeah. Not $1, not even $2 or something, but no, $20 underneath his pillow.
Every time she's done $5, I've said, this is outrageous. Like, this is outrageous. This $5 nonsense.
I knew she grew up poor. There ain't no way somebody was giving her $20 for
$20 for a tooth. That's
for a tooth.
All right, what's coming up this week for you?
So we're obviously getting ready for the big game on Sunday, and I'm sure there'll be a ton of talk about it. And look, the talk's going to continue about Luka and the crazy trade and the fallout from the NBA trade deadline that we'll see coming up here, and then. Obviously, with the Justin Tucker story and more information coming out of that, I'm sure we're going to talk about that a ton.
At JCon Sports, ConcreteLocks.com with 2 N's, and, of course, the Big Bad Morning Show on 105.7 The Fan. Love you, buddy. Let's talk again Monday, all right?
Thanks, man. I'll see you.
It's Jeremy Conn with us every Monday here on GCR. Have we taken all of our breaks?
We have, yes.
Just realized that. What a wild moment. Yeah, that's the type of thing. These types of things coming up where you're like, right, I'm going to get an email from somebody. My kids were in the car, and you were talking about a penis getting frozen to the ground. Sorry.
In passing, come on.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. It wasn't the focal point of the conversation.
Yeah. It's not like this is
Jeremy's condom
this
story.
Is the penis segment.
That was the most important part of it. Was the part that we did. All right. I feel like we've covered everything that we needed to cover from the weekend. I don't. Yeah, we've covered it all.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Did we go over the official terms of the De'Aaron Fox trade?
No, we didn't.
Or the PJ Tucker?
Yeah, we didn't do those things. So let's do a tidbit then.
Okay.
Let's do that. Tidbit is brought to you today by the CIAA tournament.
That's right. Baltimore is welcoming the excitement of the Food Line CIAA men's and women's basketball tournament to CFG Bank Arena once again later this month now, February 25th through March 1st. Get your tickets at Ticketmaster.com to secure your spot. Again, Ticketmaster.com for the Food Line CIAA men's and women's basketball tournament at the CFG Bank Arena, February 25th through March 1st.
That's right.
Future Washington Wizard Cooper Flagg averaged over 25 points per game in January.
Only if he's going to be a bad NBA player.
I think he's going to be
good. If he's going to be good, then he's definitely not a future Washington Wizard.
No, they'll figure it out.
If he's going to be bad, he's a future Washington Wizard.
He should be dummy-proof, this one, I think.
Sorry, man. This is the way it goes.
57.9% field goal shooting on all his shots in January. The last, there's one other Division I freshman in the last 15 seasons to average 25 points on that high a field goal percentage in any month. What freshman could that have been? 25 points per game, 57% shooting.
25 points per game
in a month.
57% shooting. Anthony Davis.
Not Anthony Davis.
That'd be pretty funny. I'm just trying to figure out why this would be.
He did it twice. He did it in January and March of his one and only.
But I don't know. Kevin Durant.
Not Kevin Durant.
57%. It's got to be a big, obviously.
Is he now ruled out of the last 15 seasons, I think?
Oh, is it? Yeah, he's out of it. Yeah? Yeah, he was like 07, I think. You're right. So it's got to be a big Zion.
Yes. In January and March of his freshman season. 25 points and 57% shooting. So Cooper Flagg does that.
Does help that the ACC stinks. That does help.
Yeah, crazy Louisville might be the second best team, and they lost on Saturday too. So
weird world.
You mentioned the Tennessee and Florida game. So in the last 10 seasons,
yes,
an AP top 5 team in any game there has the two lowest field goal shooting from a top 5 team. In the last 10 seasons, 21%, which was 3 weeks ago, the Tennessee at Florida game.
Right.
Tennessee shooting 21%. And the second lowest was Florida at Tennessee on Saturday, shooting 24%.
They scored 44 and 43 in one way or the other. Just weird. It's just it's a true anomaly. Which team is better?
Largest ever road win against a top 5 team, with a team with a record of under 500 on Saturday. When
Kansas State Iowa State
beat Iowa by 19. They entered.
Well, not Iowa. Iowa State.
What did I say?
You said Iowa.
I thought I said Iowa State. But yeah, Kansas State beating Iowa State. That was a pretty shocking upset there.
It's bizarre.
Luka is one of 11 NBA players to have 5 first-team All-NBA selections in his first 6 seasons. And I wasn't going to ask you, but none of the other. This wasn't going to be it. This was just one I wanted to point out. I was going to do a Grammy-related one for you.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Well, you might need it tonight, later tonight.
Unfortunately, I'm not going to trivia. I'm going to see Third Eye Blind this evening in D.C.
Interesting.
My buddy Brandon was like, hey, they're playing this really small club in D.C. It's one of those shows where, we're not allowed to have our phones.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which also, why?
What's the venue? Are you allowed to say the venue?
No, the Atlantis is the venue. Apparently, they're doing something at Soundgarden in Fells Point tomorrow, too. But it's during the radio show, so I can't go to that, which is a bummer.
None of the other 10 players.
Yes, I'm that guy. I'm still clinging. I am obsessed with Third Eye Blind. There's very few things that I have obsessions for, but one of them is Third Eye Blind.
None of the other 10 players to get 5 first-team All-NBAs in their first 6 seasons were traded before turning 30 years old. Luka, of course, now traded at 25. So, yeah.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah,
you don't trade players like this. Yeah, that's about right.
I don't know how many nominations. How many nominations? Beyonce had 11 nominations.
Sounds right.
Last night.
Okay.
So she now moves into sole possession of first place for most Grammy nominations all time.
Most Grammy nominations.
I wish I hadn't given her away. I guess you would have gotten her.
Yeah, but she has the most Grammy awards of all time. So
she has 99 nominations. She is one of 6 people with over 76 Grammy nominations. So who are the 5 others?
6. Okay, Michael Jackson.
No MJ.
Stevie Wonder.
No.
Rip this list up.
Stevie Wonder's in the top 8, but
Okay.
not in the top 6.
Quincy Jones, they honored.
Quincy
last
Jones, 80.
Because this doesn't
nominations.
just
He
have
is
to be
fourth most.
like performers. That's what makes this difficult. It's going to be songwriters, producers. So this could be an impossible list.
It's not impossible, but I do see your point.
How about Paul McCartney?
Paul McCartney as 84. He
Okay.
is third on the list. Third most nominations all time.
How about Taylor Swift?
Taylor Swift not in the top 6. She is
She's-
working her way
she's
there.
had-
She's at
she's had a
58.
lot.
She's at 58 total nominations.
I would say 5 or 6 of them were legitimate. U2.
Or 58 of them.
Yeah.
Nominations. I mean, not U2. U2 has less than 55. Bumps.
This is tricky. Because, like...
So you have 1, 3, and 4 right now.
One,
looking for 3 more.
3 more.
2, and then there's 2 tied at 5.
Fleetwood Mac.
Not Fleetwood Mac.
Try to think of who all were like Grammy darlings.
They are 3 individuals.
Proctor says someone like a producer like T-Pain. I'm gonna guess it's not T-Pain.
Not
No, I understand where he's
There's
where he's
one-
coming from. That like it's
there's
like
one-
Dr. Dre maybe.
Yeah. There's not Dr. Dre. There's one composer, and the other 2 are
A composer?
Yeah. But he's a composer you know.
A composer that I know.
Yes.
The Grammys have only been around for 60 years, I believe. A composer that I know. Paul Anka. That's Proctor. Proctor's.
No.
A composer that I know. Hans Zimmer.
Not Hans Zimmer.
Is it of that ilk?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Not I guess, yes.
Proctor says Stephen Sondheim.
No.
Andrew Lloyd Webber.
No.
John Williams.
John Williams
is
76 Grammy nominations.
I got a lot of questions about that. You
gonna fight the Academy?
No, I just how does he get like he's not
by writing good music? I don't know. You ever heard of Jurassic Park?
Thank you, but like there's only one
Star Wars.
There's only one category for best
And
score.
Did he do Jaws?
Like he didn't.
Yeah, like
he didn't write he didn't write My Heart Will Go On. Unless he did. Celine Dion. That's a good.
No, not
Celine Dion. She won a lot. Carlos Santana's won a lot.
No. You were like these guys are performers and singers, but Dr. Dre was close. So like
they're performers and singers.
Yeah.
But Dr. Dre is close.
More like right after his era, I guess.
And they're singers.
Well, I don't want. They're rappers. I guess I'll just give it to you.
That's a lot different than being a singer, Griffin.
I said performers.
Yeah, but you said singers.
They also sing. Like they can sing.
I'm gonna try to guess who these 2 people. They're rappers.
Yeah.
Not Dr. Dre. Eminem.
Not Eminem.
What do you got? What do you? Oh, what is that?
Oh,
look
cool.
at you!
Hey,
Look at
thanks,
John
Sean.
Colson coming great. I do love a yogurt parfait from Chick-fil-A. I do.
Nice.
That's one of my
Thanks,
favorite
John.
things in the world. Thank you. That's very kind of you. What a thoughtful gift.
Second most Grammy nominations all time, John.
And it's a rapper,
Yeah.
apparently. Griffin informs us that we're looking for the person with the second most Grammy nominations of all time, and it's apparently a rapper, who we alleged was also a singer. But
I mean, Kanye West is in the top 5 here.
Kanye West is as much as a singer as John Colson is.
He could sing. If he came in here and started singing, I think we'd listen.
No, you would not. I wouldn't.
He's not number 2.
He's not. He's not invited into this room.
I
make that abundantly clear.
Let's rewind 8 years, and if he.
And they've got to go more than 8 years at this point, Chief.
All right, 9 years. Yeah.
Another rapper.
Second most Grammy nominations.
Second most Grammy
I believe
nominations.
he was
of all
tied
time.
with Beyonce heading into last night.
LL Cool J.
Not LL.
Jay-Z.
Jay-Z, 88 Grammy nominations.
It's got to be producing Grammys in there too. That's got to be.
Yeah, I guess.
There's
But
gotta
Beyonce, Jay-Z, Paul McCartney, Quincy Jones, John Williams, and tied with Kanye West.
It's quite the list. All right, there you go. Very good.
Here, well, you want to do another one that you didn't like
noted,
that one?
Noted singer Jay-Z.
All right,
by the
Beyonce,
way.
fine. What you want to do?
Didn't he do? Didn't Jay-Z do the national anthem at the Super Bowl one year? Noted singer.
So Beyonce became the 5th person with 11 nominations in a single year.
Oh God, how am I supposed to
You've
know
guessed.
that?
You've guessed a few of these guys already.
Oh,
I mean,
good.
well, I
Michael
guess one of
Jackson.
them. Michael Jackson has 12, tied for the
Great.
most.
Stevie Wonder.
Not Stevie
Carlos
Wonder.
Santana.
No.
He had a lot.
I lied. Michael Jackson's the only one that you already guessed.
Good.
So there's 3 others.
Christ.
12 nominations for Michael Jackson in 1984. Also 12 nominations in 1997. And he was making some rounds on the internet last night because
Babyface. And it was because the Change the World was the song with Eric Clapton in 97. Yeah, that was he called Jay-Z a singer. You're getting dunked on a little bit. A couple people. Jay-Z's a singer.
What? I mean, if you don't think he could sing,
I have no idea if he could sing or not. That's the point. You don't have a clue.
I said performer first,
but you said singer. You said the word singer.
Is he not a singer?
Griffin, no, he's a rapper, and you know that.
He sings songs.
No, he doesn't. That's not what that is.
2 other people with 11 nominations. 2022 and 2016.
God. 2022.
Taylor Swift. Not Taylor Swift.
It's always Taylor Swift. Billie Eilish.
Not Billie.
2022. 2022. That was just 3 years ago.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm trying to figure out what exactly he got.
Lil Nas X.
No, he will be in New Orleans though this weekend.
Kendrick Lamar.
Not well, yeah, I guess both of them. Well, actually, yeah, Kendrick Lamar had 11 in 2016, 11 nominations.
Okay.
And the other guy
was that Good Kid, Mad City, or because that was
no, that was 2014, I think.
2014 was that? So was that to pimp a butterfly? Was that 2016?
Yes, it was. Pimp a Butterfly.
2022, and he'll be in New Orleans this week. He'll be in New Orleans this week to do what?
Performing
where?
He will be singing.
He will be singing. Is this whoever's doing the anthem?
Yeah.
Because I don't know who that is.
We talked about it. I think we talked about it with Drew last
But
time.
I thought we didn't come up with the answer. I thought we didn't know who it was.
No, we knew. Yeah, we knew who was doing the anthem. We just didn't.
No, Oh, we did.
We just didn't know how we were supposed
long?
to.
Oh
how
God,
the
who
anthem
was it?
gonna be.
I do remember this conversation now. Oh Christ! It's not Bruno Mars.
No.
It's the guy John Baptiste, right?
Yes, John Baptiste. Oh God. Had 11 nominations in 2022.
He won He won Album of the Year that year for an album. Like it was good, but definitely wasn't Album of the Year.
Maybe it was. I don't know.
Still far less embarrassing than some. Let me make that
There's your Grammy tidbit for the week.
Noted singers, all of our.
They are
like Busta Rhymes and DaBaby, all of our favorite singers.
Just because we don't know them for
you don't get to say they're singers.
Kanye's a singer.
You don't get to say like maybe they can sing. You don't get to say that. That's not the way it works.
They do
They're
choruses in their songs?
Some of them attempt to, but they're auto-tuned. They're not singers.
And I like it.
God, just hit the thing. We got to move on.
Have you ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations with sunny skies and beautiful beaches? Well, wait no longer. We're ready for you to cruise from the Cruise Maryland Terminal.
Have a little phrase that you can go from baggage to margarita in about 15 minutes.
Choose fun with an array of destinations, onboard activities, entertainment, and world-class cuisine.
Contact your travel agent and book your cruise today. Let your adventure begin.
All right, here's what's coming up tonight, totally tubular-wise. A couple of local hoops teams in action this evening. Morgan's at Delaware State at 7:30 on ESPN+. Coppins at UMES at 8 on DelmarvaSportsNetwork.com. Iowa State, Kansas, you would think would be a good one, but I don't know. That's 9 o'clock on ESPN. All the rest of the college hoops you can find at glennclarkradio.com. Charleston, William, and Mary at 8 on CBS Sports Network is a decent one in the CAA. Monumental for Wizards Hornets at 7 if you hate yourself. NBA TV has Rockets Knicks at 7:30. Magic Warriors at 10. TNT for Unrivaled tonight at 7:30. USA for Chelsea and West Ham United at 3. NFL Network for Super Bowl opening night, which is Media Day.
Cool.
That's what that is. That's tonight at 8. And Netflix for WWE Raw tonight at 8 as well. Non-sports.
Bachelor at 8 on ABC. The Voice, season 27 of The Voice is premiering on NBC tonight. And, it's the series finale of 911 Lone Star on Fox as well at 8
I can't
tonight.
miss that.
No, you
Well,
can't.
unfortunately, I have to because I'm going to Third Eye Blind.
It's also that's okay. You'll also be DVRing Below Deck Down Under, season 3 premiere of that on Bravo. That's Adrian Brody and Adina Menzel will be on Fallon. Lin-Manuel Miranda on Colbert.
This won't mean anything to you. Chris says, listening to Griffin try to defend calling Jay-Z a singer is as funny as when you were fighting with Kyle.
I was trying not to give it away to him that was a rap. Like I felt like it still took him a minute to.
That's a better.
figure out what a rapper is.
It's a better excuse, but you still can't say he's a singer. You can't do that. You have to say you're right. He's obviously not a singer. Like, you gotta
All right,
say
I shouldn't
that.
have said singer.
But it was comparing it to the time. One time.
But he sings.
I don't remember what the story was.
songs.
For some reason, we had king cake delivered to the studio once.
Nice.
And yeah, it was
Where
great.
were rapping in those days?
King cake is tremendous. And it led to this like 10-minute long fight with Kyle because Kyle said, "Oh, that's good cake," and I was like, "It's not cake, it's king cake." And he's like, "Well, the word cake is in king cake, so it's cake." To which I said, "Is a crab cake a cake?" Well, and like instead of just being like, "Okay, you're right," he just kept trying to fight me for 10 minutes about this because you don't call. It's like calling a cheesecake. Nobody says, "Oh, I had a good cake last night." You're like, "What was it?" And you're like, "Oh, it was a cheesecake." No, you had a cheesecake is what you had. You didn't have a cake. If you had a king cake, you had a king cake.
Well,
no. This is.
Well, I mean, it's like, what's your definition of cake?
I'm going to spend the rest of my life yelling at idiots.
It's like when you like, how do you eat it? It's like how it's.
Well, the first question is it cake?
So how about the thing you'll be eating after you lose the Super Bowl pick on Sunday?
Yes, that's not a cake. I assure you.
I mean, you could argue that's a cake.
It's going to be garbage. That part. It's
garbage cake.
It's not a cake. God, it just sat there. It was just.
What was the word that we used? We were calling it
mind-numbing.
Brazilian fruit cake.
Yes,
is how we were
fruit cake,
describing
correct.
it. So
Brazilian, but you wouldn't cake. Fruit cake is fruit cake. It's not cake. It's fruit cake. We understand because we're not simpletons.
Well, I think we
know the difference between these.
There can be two definitions.
A rapper
to cake.
is not a singer.
Like
a
cake
rapper
batter.
is a rapper. That's what we accomplished today on the program. That's what we have going for us. Thanks today to Jim Miller from SiriusXM. Thanks to Andy Katz as well as Jeremy Conn. We'll get all that up in the greatest hits section of the.
Can you take me higher?
I don't know what's going on around here. Tab at glennclarkradio.com. Tomorrow on the program, Patrick will join us, obviously. We'll talk Terps and local hoops. Anything else?
Stuff and
Oh,
things.
boy. Oh, boy. Oh, starting off the week with a bang.
We'll continue breaking down the Luka Doncic trade.
Yeah, that's what we do here. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Live Casino and Hotel, Cruise Maryland, Crown Trophy, Easy Pass, Royal Farms, CIAA Tournament, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, Brigance Brigade, Costas Inn, MSA, Maryland Sports, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Monday evening. Go Morgan, go Coppin, Duke sucks.